What's up, and welcome to a very special episode of a kind of funny Hypecast. We partnered with Square Enix for doing a special little something, getting prepared, getting hyped, getting excited for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth coming out on February 29th, 2024. I've already reviewed it. You can check that out. Imran and Bless and Roger and Barrett all gave their thoughts of it as well over on the Kind of Funny Gamescast. You can check that out. But I haven't talked to these two gentlemen about this, but specifically, Mike hasn't even played Rebirth yet at all. And Andy, you're pretty early on as well.
Yeah, I'm about 18 hours in. I don't know how many chapters there are, but like I'm getting close to like double-digit chapter numbers. I may actually already be there, but I'm a decent amount of the way in. I'm having a real good time with it so far, and I can't wait to like finally be able to fully talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm worried about spoiling stuff for Mike, but I also feel like it's so hard to spoil this game, you know?
Well, let's just start this off. There will be no spoilers here for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. You can rest assured. This is looking back at how we got here. This is looking back at the excitement, specifically Final Fantasy VII Remake that Snowbike Mike just played for the very first time. So let's get this out of the way. Of course, I am Tim Geddes. I'm joined by the Nitro Rifle, Andy Cortez.
Hello, Tim.
And the Master of Hype, Snowbike Mike.
Hello, Tim. Thanks for having me.
This is exciting.
Thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you to Square. Like, I am so excited about this because we just got done for my first time ever playing Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and man, oh man, was it a special time. I can't wait to talk about it.
It's been a special experience, and like, you know, Mike broke my heart a couple times by streaming it without me, and it's like, and I did feel kind of heartbroken, but I had to watch the recap of the lore videos that Mike was doing with his PowerPoint presentations. And that did catch me up because, again, I played this back in the day, Tim. When we came out, like, I was part of the review crew. I reviewed it. It was one of those, like, I was right up against the deadline, and I finished it. I was texting Tim, like, how much longer do you think I have? I was like, oh, man, I think I can actually do this. I was on, like, 3 hours sleep for that review, I remember. And that was an awesome time because Final Fantasy VII Remake was really the first time I truly vibed with the franchise. I loved the combat.
The Final Fantasy in general.
In general. Like, I played Final Fantasy X back in the day.
Excellent game.
And my cousin had 7, and I remember seeing about 40 discs, all over the bed.
3.
And I was like...
This time it's 2.
But, like, no, but that was cool to me.
Oh,
like, I was like, dude, this is insane. I can't believe this. But it wasn't really until 10 that I was buying GamePro magazines and Game Informer and like drawing all the characters and again, like as somebody who never played 7, I bought Advent Children on DVD because I just loved the characters and I loved drawing them and I loved seeing these incredible visuals. So my history goes back with like, I don't know a whole lot about the early days of what the early story was, and that's why Remake was like hard to spoil what's going to happen for me because I haven't experienced this story. But it was still incredibly special. And so Remake, when that came out, that was like, wow. Even looking now, during the playthrough, how many times are we looking at, again, it's the PS5 up-res version, but the amount of times you're looking at the screen just going like, dude, this is an old-gen game. And it looks like this.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
No, it really is incredible. I mean, just thinking again about the timeline of this, that I just get so excited about it because it felt like it was impossible that Final Fantasy VII Remake was ever going to actually happen. I've been hearing rumors about this since I was like legitimately 11 years old. Like, so the rumors, and you know, it's because when the PS3 was first announced, like they showed a tech demo of the opening of Final Fantasy VII done in PS3 style. And we're all like, oh, they're doing it, and then like we're not doing it, and then years and years and years later, at I want to say it was PSX, they came out, and they're like, hey, we're doing it, we're going back.
I was there,
and they announced
2016, right?
They announced Final Fantasy VII coming to PS4, but it was just the original version. And everyone's like, oh, wow. And then it like, I think it was less than a year later at E3, they announced it's actually happening. You were at that E3?
I know. I was at the PSX where they showed like a long sort of like portion of the gameplay.
That was the follow-up. That was like E3, they announced the Remake was actually happening. Thank you so much, Barrett, for bringing it up. And I mean, I think it goes without saying, this was the most exciting E3 trailer moment ever. Like, I think it definitely, in my opinion, is between this and maybe like the Twilight Princess reveal back in the day, just because of how exciting that was. But this felt unreal. And then for the game to come out a couple years after this and kind of live up to all those expectations was so special. And then now a couple years later, getting the follow-up, man, it is a great time, the best time to be a Final Fantasy VII fan.
I know we're just getting started, but like, what was it about 7 that 6 and 5 and 4 didn't necessarily pop off in the same way? Was it the sort of translation to these 3D visuals where you're kind of being able to see these characters more? Is it fans really kind of feeling like they have a relationship with these characters? What was it that kind of like made 7 the big hitter?
Well, so here's the thing. I would say that like it's funny that you say like 4, 5, and 6. I mean, like those all.
No,
of course. Like,
yeah.
I'm saying like those
they wouldn't exist if they weren't fans.
A big deal.
Yeah.
But that when we look back at the legacy and history of Final Fantasy, like Mike, I don't even know if you knew this, but like Final Fantasy, all the Final Fantasies weren't even released in America at the time 7 came out. There had only been 3 Final Fantasies.
Oh, wow.
So it was Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, 7, because what we had as Final Fantasy 3 was actually Final Fantasy 6 in Japan. And Final Fantasy 6 was a huge deal. Mm-hmm. Super Nintendo game, like really pushing the Super Nintendo of like what that means.
A lot of people's favorites entry.
And it is incredible. I hope one day it gets a remake. Hopefully in the HD 2D style, like Octopath Traveler.
Oh, wow.
Would be incredible. But Final Fantasy VII was so special because it was the first PlayStation title, right? Mm-hmm. So first 3D Final Fantasy, but also Square has always pushed the limits of tech in their games. And we even see it to this day of like how hard they go with so much of the technical elements of it. And even what I was talking about earlier, the tech demo of pushing the PS3. Let's see if we can like create the intro using this new hardware or whatever. And it looked amazing. But Final Fantasy VII was one of the first examples of man, I don't even know what you call it now. Full motion video, like CG cutscenes.
Yeah.
Like and actually like being able to cinematics. And that felt like, I'm watching a movie. Like I'm playing a game, but like it's more than just like reading text. There was a lot of reading text, but like
I didn't think I'd see Cloud look this way in this sort of like almost Pixar or whatever the hell,
Without the original having these isometric backgrounds that were like beautifully rendered.
Yeah, pre-rendered.
Yeah, like all that stuff came together to make it larger than life, and also what an amazing cast of characters. I feel like all of that just kind of like gelled together at a time that I feel like people were ready for video games to start growing up with them. I think Final Fantasy VII was a great example of that happening. So then obviously moving on to where we're at now. I mean, Mike, like you mentioned Advent Children earlier, Andy. Like, did you watch the DVD back then? Like,
yeah.
Because it's just cool.
Okay, so like we watched it last night, and I had just this weird like nostalgic flashback of my dad just being stoked that I had something cool for him to like put loud on the stereo system.
Ooh.
And so like that was one of those that you pop in, and my dad just loves visuals. He doesn't care what it is. He's just like, wow, look at the fabric on that guy's collar is insane. And then watching it again yesterday, like having the same thought of like, dude, like this movie looks way better than I thought it would have.
Oh.
Before we were wondering like, how's this gonna age, right? Way more impressive than I could have imagined, because I just assumed, it's a really old cinematic movie. The real-time stuff probably looks better than it does back then. Mm-hmm. It's still really close. Like, I was very, very impressed by the visuals in Advent Children.
Yeah, so last night we went to a movie theater and got to watch Advent Children.
What a treat. It was a treat.
It was awesome, man. I've never seen it in theaters, so that was so special. But also, like, everything Andy's saying, like, it's still just as fun as it's always been. And
one of those I had to buy at Suncoast.
Oh, yeah.
Because they didn't sell it. I don't remember seeing it at a Best Buy or Walmart. I had to go to, like, a specialty place where you would get all the anime at. You know?
I mean, well, that's the thing, too, with talking about Square and pushing the tech forward. I mean, like, looking at their drive to make these type of movies or whatever they were, whether it's movies or games or something in between, like just pushing these stories forward and creatively showing them off. Like Advent Children was them being like, we're going to flex. We're going to do this. Like that was a time when there weren't CG movies like that coming out. Like it was Pixar stuff and DreamWorks stuff. And that was pretty much it. And they're like, no, we're going to go very hard. And in a lot of ways, it kind of defined the look of how we think about Final Fantasy VII in a more modern way, especially when you look at things like Remake and Rebirth. So Mike, I want to get you off the bench here because
there's a lot to talk about.
There is. So what is your very brief history with Final Fantasy VII.
There's zero history with it, Tim. You know, I think I've heard about it back in the day, but there was zero interest. There was no jumping in point for me ever. I didn't have any friends that were talking about Final Fantasy back in the day. I didn't have the console to play Final Fantasy at the time. And so for me, it was a foreign idea to play this game. And now to this point of like, I never thought I'd be into Final Fantasy, but I've tried. I tried with 15. I gave it a little test. I tried with 16. I gave it a little test. But this was the one where I was like, I'm living in the perfect timeline where I can play Final Fantasy VII Remake and go right into Rebirth, right? And we've lined this up perfectly where we made a lot of great streams out of it. I've gone on an incredible journey with Andy. And now I live in the best timeline because guess what? Next week, I get to play the next one. And that is like the coolest situation to be in. Getting to see the movie with you guys. I mean, it adds so much to the game, but also at the same time, like seeing Cloud for the first time on that motorcycle when they introduce him is the coolest thing around. It is honestly the coolest thing. Or when the whole gang shows up and you're like, oh my God, like look at them all on the big screen. Like how cool is that? And it also left me with some questions.
I love
that.
that.
I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And that's the best part about all this. You talk about me living my best life and my best timeline. I have so many questions. I have so many thoughts. I now get to be that person like, yo, let's talk about this because I got some ideas of where this could have gone.
And you know, that's again, we were saying there's going to be no Rebirth spoilers, so you do not need to worry about that at all. But just to be clear, if it isn't already, we will be going into spoilers for Remake specifically and Advent Children because we did just watch it, so we want to talk about that as well. I will just make allusions even to the original. The original is its kind of own thing, so take that for what it is. But what you're bringing up here, Mike, about the theorizing and the conversations and there's so many questions. What are the answers? I feel like that's core to the identity of Final Fantasy VII. That always has been, dating back to the original. Like, I remember my friends telling me before I even played it, they were like, yeah, I don't know what this is or what about that? Did you get this character? And I was like, this is wild that like a game can make you think these things, make you care enough to have questions that weren't just, oh, they didn't have an answer. It's, oh, there's an answer, but they're actually making me think about it. And like, I thought that's always been really cool. But then you add on all the side stories and the Advent Children, and even with how Remake is and ends and everything. One of my favorite things is the friendships that I've made over the years with some of my best friends. My best friend Curran, his favorite game of all time, Final Fantasy VII, and he put me onto it. And bonding with him over these characters in this world,
yes,
to this day is special to me. And like, we talk about that. And now people like Imran, like in my modern adult life, I'm making friends. I mean, obviously you two are great examples as well. Like so much of our friendship is based around our shared interests. And one of those shared interests is this love of Final Fantasy VII Remake and now Rebirth and all of it. So really, really cool stuff. But having the conversation of like, what do you think's happening? Or did you like this thing? Like, what about this? What's going to happen there? Like, so much fun. And they really give you a lot to do that with.
Oh, especially early on, if you have no idea what's jumping in, you don't know what's happening, right? I'm looking at Andy all the time going, they're freaking out off of the Mako. You know, it's a Mako freak out.
It's all Mako dream.
It's all a dream, Andy. You just don't see it yet. But the cool part, like you said, is all the questions and the iconic characters and the locations and the music put this perfect blend of like every moment that we played, I had a blast. Every time I stopped, all I thought about was what we just played and where we have to go next. Because it goes on an awesome journey, right? And getting to vibe with, you know, you meet Jesse and we go on a date with Jesse and that date goes wild, right? I mean, we're on motorcycles and we're getting chased. We're taking it to the red line and I'll never forget that. And that's something special to me when I think of my experience with this. Is like, there's some moments here I'll never, ever forget.
So let's go to you, Andy, on this. Final Fantasy VII Remake, you played it, you reviewed it with us back in the day, which is funny to even call that back in the day, just being a couple years ago. But what are your thoughts, a couple years removed, watching Mike play, sitting with him the entire time about Remake?
Still extremely impressed by production values, by the gameplay, and how much of the core gameplay is still so in service to what's happening on the screen, dealing with all the different materia and all the elements and looking for weaknesses and playing that Pokemon game of rock, paper, scissors, the electricity going after the robots, the fire going after the humans and the beasts or whatever. I think it's just such a well-crafted experience. I am still like, after experiencing some of what's happening in Rebirth, still like extremely impressed of what they were able to pull off in terms of visuals, world design, levels, characters, dialogue, having these back and forths, forming bonds, making these relationships feel real, making these relationships feel like lived in, and you have these. Maybe you went through some bad stuff with one character in the past, but now you're making amends and you're kind of seeing the relationship change over time. There's small, just little amazing hints, like this sequence that we're watching here with Aerith and Cloud. And it's such a small little thing, but the high five moment where Cloud goes there for the high five, and she's like, "Oh shit, you want a high five?" And he's like, never mind." Like seeing that little small growth from a character who is this brooding character who's dealt with a lot of stuff in his past, and that's what's made him this rugged jerk, right? Like he's very closed off. I never want to like get into my feelings. I am masculine and nobody talk to me, even though I'm like the prettiest boy I've ever seen in my life. But he like seeing him open up again and be willing to accept people, it's just so like beautifully done. After playing it, I was amazed by it when I first played it in 2020. This is my first time re-experiencing it because I usually don't replay a lot of games, just the nature of the industry and us having a lot of things to play. Still blown away by it. Like I was wondering, how is this going to age for me at, 4 years later after having a lot of kind of banger hits in the past couple years, still being absolutely blown away by the gameplay elements.
Oh my, yeah, active time battle.
Yeah,
right.
Just all of
come
the.
on.
One of the most thrilling things ever was watching Mike fight the goddamn house.
I mean, yeah, Hell House,
Like
dude.
the Hell House fight was so incredible, and yeah, Chad is getting mad at us because maybe we're not fully using all the abilities, and then I look at Mike's thing, and I'm like, oh, Mike, you haven't leveled up anything. What are we doing? But we fight through it and we find our way, and I'm still like absolutely blown away by what Square was able to pull off with this remake, and also I'm just kind of blown away by the reception from the diehards. That's such a hard thing to pull off, to make the people that have been there since day one, to make them happy.
Yeah.
How are you going to satisfy the people that like is the real core audience that you're going for? And for people like you and for people who have played Final Fantasy VII back in the day and to be like, wow, this is better than you could have imagined a remake to be. It's just insanely impressive.
It really is. And you were talking about remakes specifically, and we played it on the PS4, but then they came out with the PS5 version,
Right.
Intergrade, that also included like a DLC, like an expanded story focusing on Yuffie. And one cool thing is the twin pack is available of Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth for the same price as just buying the game. So you can get both games on PS5 for the $70, which I think is cool for them to put it out there. Obviously, Remake leading into Rebirth, like there's a lot of game there, right? So get on if you want to. But Mike, let's talk more about it.
Cool.
Remake, right?
I mean, you want to talk about the characters, you want to talk about the story, because Tim, let me tell you what, nothing's cooler than the intro of seeing Avalanche, getting to meet Barrett, and then what happens? Cloud with the coolest intro and entrance you've ever seen, jumping off the train, big Buster sword on his back, and we're going to go do some stuff. And I mean, from the Mako reactor blowing up to getting out, going and seeing the top of the plate. I mean, we're talking about Midgard, right? And it's like, oh, there's the top side. But then we go down into the slums and venturing through that to Seventh Heaven, meeting Tifa. And like Andy said it so well, right? Of like this mercenary, this merc who just wants to get paid. But then you see Tifa and it's like, oh, they're childhood friends. And you can see him open up just a little bit, but I'm still here for my money. And like Avalanche and Baird's like, well, you're kind of in, but you're not really in. You're kind of out. And then, we need you and you're back again. And Jesse needs you and you start building these bonds. And I mean, from the moment go, I knew I was going to be on an awesome journey. And I could keep going down the list. The wall market, right? Seeing that was so cool. Trying to go save Tifa, what we had to do to get to Tifa and go see Dawn. It's like, man, this was cool, right? And then the underground fighting pit, like Andy brought up, with the Hell House, and like getting a dress. That was wild. There's just so
doing
many.
the bee dance.
Oh my gosh.
Honeybee
Andy and the bees were so special. Like I fell in love with some bees there.
Yeah.
Like that was crazy, And it all looks so good and it's so magical. And it's crazy that like if you asked me before this experience, what is Final Fantasy VII? I would be like, it's probably some fantasy game. Maybe there's some monsters. I don't know. Like, and then you see that and you're like, wow, look at this world they created, right? I'm fighting mechs, the air buster fight. Now all of a sudden I'm fighting the house. Now I'm fighting this giant demon dog in the sewers. Like, it is so much fun in the journey you go on. And then meeting different characters that are like, I'm not on your team, but now I'm on your team because I didn't like that guy. And like, I'm going to help you out. And we're going to find a way topside because I know you got to keep going. And then I'm grappling up the top of the wall. And it's this beautiful thing. The plate falls. I could go down the whole list. I can tell you the whole story right now. It's that good.
I mean, I love hearing this from you,
It's
Mike.
so special.
Like to know you so well and to know the type of games you like or the things you don't like, but also knowing like the anime you like and like the things that really get you going. I knew that there was potential here. I did not expect you were going to be this excited. Like hearing you playing in the lab while we're in the other room, freaking out about everything was like so special.
I was in the restroom and I heard him yell. Like legit. And I also think it's like such a great topical, applicable story to now. Like, and I know it's kind of been a story you could have told for a long time and it'd always be applicable, but it's never felt more like present than here today, than this company just sucking all the planet's resources dry for money and for capitalism. And we are Avalanche and we want to stop that. And that moment, it was so cool watching Mike react to the moment where, the bomb didn't go off. Jesse's bomb kind of like messed up. And then we see the heads of Shinra, they're watching them the whole time like, yeah, blow that up. Let's get the gunners going. And then it's like, oh shit, they want this to blow up because it's a false flag. Like, dude, it's like so sick, dude. It's like such a topical, cool, feels like a Mission Impossible type story. Like it's awesome. The government kind of being against the people is like always a really cool story, and I just appreciate the angles and directions they take with it.
It's so cool.
We are brought to you by Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a standalone game that welcomes fans and newcomers alike. You don't need to have played Final Fantasy VII Remake or any other Final Fantasy titles to play and enjoy Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The combat is not traditional turn-based and has more action-focused gameplay, with even deeper improvements since Remake, with new synergy attacks and team-based combos. And there are large open sections to explore, with Cloud and his comrades venturing across the planet, their fates unwritten, making every step in the expansive world outside Midgard fresh and mysterious. And of course, there are dozens of mini-games. There's a story recap video of Final Fantasy VII Remake for those interested in learning more about the story so far, and those looking to experience Final Fantasy VII Remake fully can pre-order the Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth Twin Pack, which includes the game plus the DLC episode intermission at no extra cost. You can download and play a demo of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth right now on the PlayStation Store, and you can pre-order the game in the link in the description. The wait is almost over. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is out February 29th. Get hyped.
And it feels like when you first start, it's like, oh, this is the world. There's nothing outside of the plate and underneath the plate. Like, you don't know what else is out there, but there's something out there, right? They allude to it multiple times of like, oh, there's something else out there. There are people out there. And it's like this big mix. Like Andy said, like the pot is boiling and we're adding in ingredients and eventually it's going to burst. And sure enough, it did burst, right? And then Shinra put it all on us and we're fighting for our lives. We're trying to tell the people we did good down there, but they don't believe us. They're not happy that Shinra dropped the plate on the slums and like that was our fault, right? Or so they thought. And it was like wild to see that. And then going to meet Aerith for the first time and meeting the Turks for the first time. I mean,
Turks.
There are incredible moments in this every single time you play. And I think that's the wild part to me is I could go down the entire story and you could just go, awesome moment. Great. I mean, entrance, awesome moment. Fighting the Scorpion at the first reactor, awesome moment. Blowing it up, but then seeing Shinra working in the background, awesome moment. Going back to the slums, meeting Tifa for the first time, understanding who Cloud is, incredible moment. Her saying, hey, you could build up your rep here. Like, you could make this a home. Like, I need you around in my life, dude. You don't got to run away. And he's like, I'm kind of in. Awesome moment, right? To Jesse going, hey, I'm really incredible human being. I'm like, Jesse, I'll give you my entire life, whatever you want. And she's like, let's go on.
Mike felt it.
Was that Cloud or was that Mike there?
Me, everything you want. And she's like, I got a plan for us, but let's not tell anybody. And then, of course, the gang has to be involved because we're a gang and we're all friends. And like, now you're going with Wedge and Biggs. We go to Jesse's mom's house. She's making us pizza. We're stealing her dad's card. And it's like, you get this beautiful moment of like, what is it like for others, right? Like Jessie lives this interesting life of her parents live topside. Her father works for Shinra, but we also see the negative sides of what happens working around these chemicals and what it could do to a family. And the mom just wants to see Jessie. And Jessie's like, no, Mom, like, I got to save the plan. I got to save us. And she's like, please just work at the local playhouse. I miss you. And she's like, I got to go, Mom. And then we get on a motorcycle. And all of a sudden, we meet the coolest dude ever. And he's fighting us on a motorcycle. And I'm like, oh my God, Roche, you're so cool. And he's like, we're going to take it to the red line every time we fight. And I was like, this is incredible. And then we get to Shinra. We sneak in. And of course, it's all going to hell because crazy stuff's happening. And then we get introduced to more Avalanche. And it's like, oh, it turns out that, yeah, we might be Avalanche, but like they kicked us out of Avalanche because we're too hardcore. But they got guns and stuff. So like, who knows who? And then, oh my God.
Anytime there was a noise, Mike would go, he would never called him Roach. It was always Rhodey. Anytime there was a sound, oh my God, Rhodey. And I was like, Mike, he's not coming back for a while. Mike.
He wanted to test us.
Mike wanted Rhodey to be the star of the show the whole time.
I needed him to be the star of the show.
I love that.
So then, of course, we keep going. It's like, hey, oh my God, the whispers too. And then you wake up to the whispers and like now they're affecting everybody. And Jessie rolls an ankle and it's like, you're back on the squad. And it's like, well, you didn't want me on the squad. And he's like, you're on the squad. And you're like, okay, I'll go to the squad.
The mystery of, oh, we're the only ones seeing the whispers. And then you run outside when they're all there in Sector 7 and you see Tifa freaking out. You're like, oh, everybody sees the whispers. It's not just us. So what's going on here?
I mean, to the first time you meet the Turks with Reno and Rude, and they see the whispers too. And it's like, what is going on with these whispers?
Aerith's about to fall and the one whisper saves you. And you're like, oh, what's that? Are they bad?
Yes.
Huh. And it made like, what the hell's going on? Dude, oh, that's such a great little tip off to like what is actually happening.
And the story just keeps building. I could keep going down, but like, you know what's complementing the story so much? The music. And that is what I'm so excited to hear now in number 2 for Rebirth, because getting out of that movie, I was like, oh my gosh, they just continue to hit us with incredible music. And that Sephiroth theme is so good.
One-winged angel, man.
It's so funny.
When Andy told me that was his name, my jaw dropped. My jaw dropped to the floor. I can't believe
when that one wing popped out, I was like, the one-winged angel. And he goes, no.
You were so in, Mike.
so good.
So like, it's so funny hearing him talk about the soundtrack because me being halfway through Rebirth, I'm like, Mike, you don't know a damn thing. And right now, Barrett and Tim go, Andy, you don't know a damn thing. Because like what I've experienced is so exciting already. And then I've told Tim where I'm at in the game. He's like, oh, dude, the music at this place and at this place just keeps on escalating.
I mean, they said in the state of play, 400 new recorded tracks for Rebirth.
Insane.
And again, we're talking about the Foundation being one of the best game soundtracks of all time. But now they're just like, we got to fill some of the biggest games ever with music. And they do. There's just so many variations, so many amazing themes. And like, that's the thing, man. Like I really think of Final Fantasy VII and Star Wars as very similar, and for so many of the most amazing reasons of such a great diverse cast of characters that we just want to root for, great villains, great themes music-wise, and just like vibe-wise of who they all are and how they connect to each other. Like it's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, hearing these songs for decades at this point for me, but you know, just a couple weeks for you and a couple years for you. It's like, it's the repetition that really makes you realize how special it all is, so that when eventually you do hear the like violin chords, you're like, oh, that's Sephiroth. You know what I mean? It's like there's artistry to the music that's not just, oh, this sounds dope.
It builds
It
character.
also sounds dope, but there's a reason for it, you know?
It's got to be so much fun in the room when they make all this music. Like, that's my one dream, is like to be in the room when they all come together and like, here's the vision. And then you just start hearing it being pieced together. You're like, oh, unbelievable. At the end of the day, they all got to be high-fiving in that room. And yeah, like you said, the villains too, right? You get introduced to the president of Shinra. I was calling him Big H, but his right-hand lieutenant on the security side, and then meeting more, right? Like, there's so many more evil villains that we got to meet, plus the Turks, and then all of a sudden, Shinra's president's son is there, and
Rufus.
he is the coolest dude on planet Earth. He's got the coolest counters to every move me and Andy are throwing at him.
Carrying everything.
And
dude.
he looks at us and he goes, there's a new era of Shinra here. And you're like, what does that mean?
No, but the coolest thing after the boss fight is Rufus he drops that line. There's a new era of Shinra coming. As he's holding his hand out, no look grabs the helicopter as it's taking him away. I was like, how did they plan that? How did I said motorcycle. I mean helicopter.
Yeah,
the helicopter,
Reno,
dude, just like kind of like pulling him away. Like, dude, that was the coolest exit ever. You know, like that whole sequence was incredible. And then we get to the end of it, and we had some people in chat being like, Andy, who do those 3 whispers represent? I was like, dang, I don't know.
No idea.
And they were like, well,
if
you're gonna watch Advent Children tonight, you'll learn.
And that was something that was so incredibly exciting to me and Imran last night in the theater as we're watching this movie, because before the movie they showed this little like hype clip for Rebirth, and they had some of the devs talking about why they're doing this, and like, you know, obviously it's marketing, but also like here's how they may relate, may not relate, whatever. They specifically confirmed a theory that we've had since the game came out, that some of these like fighting whisper bosses represent the 3, I guess they are the Advent Children,
brothers,
like the brothers that are like, you know, Sephiroth, whatever, Laz,
Kadaj, and I forgot the other one,
and another one.
I just wish.
I'm not crying. He always says, I'm not crying.
One thing I wish 2 of them had a little bit more different hair. The 2 with the straight hair. I wish one of them had a more different cut, because that one guy had the silly one. I had that you know, little swoop. He had that kind of Jin from Tekken look.
Yep.
I wish both of the other ones had like maybe a little something different.
Oh, I love they all had their own unique weapons.
So
and then when they got the materia and then putting it on, you're like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
So they each had their own unique weapons that, of course, we noticed when we were kids watching this movie. I was like, oh, that's cool, you know?
Yeah.
But the bosses have those weapons. So that's why when we first played Remake,
that.
we're like, wait a minute. They have those weapons, but it was like, oh, that's just a nice little nod. And it, you know, still is just a nice little nod. But it was really cool to have them actually confirm it before watching Advent Children. And it really makes all these Final Fantasy projects feel more connected. And I think this is something that I keep saying, but I just feel like the more Final Fantasy VII stuff you consume or reconsume or consume in a recontextualized way, whatever it is, it just enhances it all. Like, I just feel like any questions you have, any theories you have, it just makes it more fun to know more. But like, I really don't feel like that you have to play every single thing, like specifically some of the more obscure titles in the franchise. But the more you play, the more you get out of it.
Oh, I loved learning more, like you said, right? We learned more about Aerith and who Aerith is and what she has ties to. I think that's the coolest part. You get swept up in all these cool characters that you meet so early on, right? But you don't know. Some of them have a big backstory. Some of them are very important. And the cool part about Aerith being, you know, of ancient descent.
You think she's just a small town girl?
She's just small. She just wants to stay in the slums. She just wants to live an easy life. Keep it easy. But like, she knows that she's tied to something bigger. And you get the tease of, there's something out there and we're going to go out there. And she is kind of that guiding light of like, now you know, hey, all of this is great. And like, you're seeing it and we're experiencing this and we got to handle stuff in Midgar. But like, there's a moment we're going to have to leave.
Yeah.
And like, she is the one to lead that. And of course, I got to go save her too.
I don't know if there's any cooler moment, like, because there's a lot of moments in the game where the directors and the writers will throw out a little hint to make you kind of go, what does that mean? Anyway, I got to keep on playing the game, right? And you kind of start wondering to yourself, why are they after Aerith? And then why are they trying to kidnap Aerith? What is it about her?
And why don't they just swoop her up?
And then
swoop her up.
Once you kind of get that moment, you're like, oh, there's something, like, she's got something about her. This isn't like you know, she's the president's daughter. She's actually, this is like some real deep stuff. The story goes deeper and deeper than we could ever imagine.
God, it's so cool.
And I just like, I love that she's just this random person with the kindest, sweetest heart and brings the smile out of Cloud. And then you kind of like, oh, you're tipped off like, oh, shoot, there's something else actually happening here. And it's really kind of dark and sinister and weird. And I'm so excited for whatever the hell the Rebirth has in store for me.
One of my favorite things about Remake was seeing these iconic characters come to life and feel so well realized, and either how I thought they were or somehow giving me like, oh, this is what I was wrong. My head was wrong. They should have been this in my head all this time. And I think Aerith's a great example of it. I love her character in Remake. And there's a moment towards the end where she is like looking up at the sky and it's like raining and like she's seeing the sky for the first time because she's lived her life in hiding. She's lived her life in these slums, like all of that. And it's just such a powerful, beautiful moment that like is backed up by an amazing performance by Aerith, but also just by Breonna Taylor as Aerith. But just so I feel like as somebody that grew up playing these games, watching these movies, all this stuff, being like in love with Aerith, like loving her more than I ever have. I feel like there's just so much more character to her just because this game allows the performances to be there. And it's not just reading text. It's not just using your imagination. Like it is one of the rare examples where it's like what you're seeing is actually better than your imagination. And I stand by that.
Those performances are all incredible. I mean, I leaned over at Andy after the movie and I was like, I like the new Cloud better. And he goes, yeah, Mike, it's been a lot of time. And like the voice actors are incredible. But like, yeah, it's wild that each one of those characters, all the voice actors they bring are so good. Each one you latch onto, they steal the show every single time. And it is absolutely amazing to hear all of it. Barrett gives some speeches where you want to stand up and run through a wall. Because, yeah, we got to save the planet, dude.
Ray Lewis before the football game, man. He's getting the team pumped up. And then, having that cool moment of like, oh, that's Spider-Man right there. Johnny. That's Yuri Lowenthal. Like it's just, I love having those like moments of connection with just other voices in gaming. And it's just been a blast hearing Mike's anytime Red 13 is on screen and he looks at me and goes, is that Johnny?
Could be Johnny. Could be Johnny. But Johnny has this cool beard that looks like a tiger's claw, and you think, oh, maybe, because like Johnny's in and out. You know what I mean?
Mike, what I love about that is your theory.
Never seen him in the same spot.
Red 13 is actually Johnny. Like I'm not going to confirm or deny for you, but I love that is in line with the way Final Fantasy VII makes you think. Like something that wacky.
That's not out of the realm of possibility.
Possible.
Yeah.
And it feels right in this thing that you're talking about. Like, oh man, the story about like the planet's life being sucked out and how important and relevant it all is. And Mike has a theory that this like red talking tiger might be also a human, and it's like, yeah, that totally adds up. And I'm not questioning. It's funny. We're laughing because it's whatever. But I mean, we all saw your reaction to Kate Sith being shown for the first time.
Right?
You might not even know that's his name, but the little cat guy.
I didn't know he had a Scottish accent until last night.
You learned that? Voice?
That was shocking. I was like, what the hell is that? Because we didn't hear a voice when we saw that cutscene. We just saw like the getting on the ground and hitting the dirt or whatever. You talking about the planet being sucked dry. We had a huge laugh because Mike kept going like, what happens when they suck their whole planet dry? Like, does the plate just float off? I was like, no,
it's the planet.
Mike, like the planet doesn't disappear. Like it's just like it's still all together. It's just a dead planet.
The whole time saw it. It's gonna become a UFO and just fly off.
It's like the planet's just gonna crumble like an apple core.
But again, and I sound silly saying this, but like the game gives you enough stuff to think about that you're thinking about these things. So you're like, there's enough iconography and like not just places, but like things in the places that you're like, why does that look that way?
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like that's pretty cool.
That's the cool part between the movie and the game too. It's like we live through the game, but then you see the movie and you're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what the top side of the plate would look like, right? Like playing it. The world they built is so incredible, from the slums to the top. Then seeing it in the game or in the movie, you're like, this is wild stuff.
I was also really surprised by the keeping true to the characters' visuals and everything. Like going back to it. You see Cloud, you're like, oh, damn, he looks identical. This is really, really cool. I wonder how the other characters are going to look. I wonder how Reno's going to look. And like, everything is like almost pretty much pitch perfect.
Oh, you're talking about their Advent Children look?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Like, just in terms
new
of like
costumes.
Well, yeah, Barrett had, rocking a new vest and, he's got cornrows.
Fishnet going on.
Yeah.
That was cool.
That was cool. And I did expect to see more of that in the movie. I expected like, maybe Rude grew his hair out a little bit, or so, he has that like the balding head or whatever, or maybe like Cloud would have longer hair or whatever. But I did enjoy that. Seeing the video games versions of these characters is like they stayed true to their vision. They had a vision back with Advent Children of how are we going to make these characters look in a semi-lifelike visual kind of vibe, right?
Yeah.
We had these characters that have always looked like little toys in some cutscenes, and then when we get to the combat scenarios, they're a bit more proportionate to how they would look in real life. But then you get back and it's just like a little
cut scene. They look different.
Yeah,
and,
there's
like,
so many different visual like
in the
identities
menu.
to
There's
them.
like a 2D painting looking version
Yeah.
of them. Like there's all of that stuff. But yeah, like dude, I mean, let's. I want to talk about voice actors for one more second, and then I want to talk about the movie because major shout out to John Eric Bentley, who's the voice of Barrett, who just brings it with every single line.
Real
And
good.
I got to meet him at the preview event. I got to meet the majority of the voice cast. They were all there. I didn't meet them all. They're so lovely, and they all care so much. Like there are so many actors that I've met that really care about their characters. The cast of Final Fantasy VII Remake, they care about the Final Fantasy VII characters so much and this world. And seeing John Eric Bentley, who's newer to the video game world, be so energized. He was walking around, literally, it felt like Barrett was there. Like he was walking around as we're all playing, like, oh man, like making jokes
That's
about
awesome.
everybody. And it was just such a good vibe. And like major shout out to him because I mean he brings it, right? Like that elevated performance for a character that has had a lot of valid criticism over the years for how he was originally portrayed in original Final Fantasy VII. Like I love his portrayal in Remake, and can't wait for y'all to see how he
Marlene!
how he is in Marlene there. There you go.
Mike, when the plate fell, do you think that little girl survived all the cats that you didn't get all her
Oh
cats?
yeah, she was looking for a cat.
You didn't rescue your
cat.
We ran to another area and there was like 7 cats and he was like, well, why can I just bring these cats? Like, no, but like those aren't her cats. So he's like, yeah, but what's the difference? Just
Cat's cat.
They're not her. A cat isn't a cat.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there's something about this series and franchise and video games as a whole where these voice actors really take to it and love it and bring so much pride to it. But something about Final Fantasy, because we got to meet Ben Starr, and you can tell he cares, right? Like that guy, he's like, there's a legacy to this franchise, and I'm going to bring it for them every time. And it's like,
Treat it with
you
the
can just
respect.
feel that. Yeah, the respect, the love. It's like, that's cool.
Absolutely, and it was actually Ben that tried to get me in touch with John Eric Bentley, and he was like, "Dude, John has the energy." And when I heard him while I was playing behind me, and I was like, Ben was right. Like,
yeah.
this is the guy. So anyway, that was so awesome. But
One thing I really enjoyed about going back to the movie one more time was, again, I haven't seen this movie in 15 years, right? Or whatever, like since I was a teenager. And I thought it was so neat as somebody who is very forgetful. I forget a lot of like key plot points and things like that. But for them to be like, oh, you hit our mother, for the Advent children to be like, you hit our mother in the statue of the meteor because that's how she came down.
Yes.
And it's like, oh yeah, duh.
So
That's the logo.
smart.
Of course, like I just like it's such a gimme. Of course, like I should have known that. I should not be surprised by that. But I still love that they are going back to the roots of the story, and it almost felt like watching, because of all the fades to black. It felt like I was watching a YouTube kind of cutscene, a compilation
Game,
of
the
cutscenes.
movie,
Because
yeah.
it was like, here's this scene, cut to black, fade to black. Here's this scene, fade to black.
Andy, like I need to explain to you. Like I know you watched it back then, but like I watched it with the context of it all.
Right.
Like, I was like fiending for this thing. Like,
I was
not-
watching for the visuals, you know.
yeah, of course, and so was I. But
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
also watching for the lore and for the music and for the action scenes and the references and the Easter eggs and all of it. And oh my god, it just delivered. And like I will say, honestly, watching it last night for the first time in over a decade, I've seen this movie dozens of times, easily. I've specifically seen the action scenes hundreds of times. Maybe 1,000 times when you're talking about the final fight and the Tifa church fight. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I love them. They're iconic.
When that motorcycle gets going
Oh,
and he puts the goggles on, I'm like, oh, this is sick as hell, right?
so cool.
And then the side compartments of the motorcycle poof, open up.
Oh,
You
the
see
weapons.
all the swords and the side swerving of the movement. And again, this was 2006, right? 2004?
2005.
2005. And when we left the theater, I was like, it's in that moment that, you know, they've always had that dog in them. Like like these directors have always
talented.
had the stuff.
Yep.
And you know, you're amazed by what you're seeing now with Remake and all the cool action scenes there. But even dating back then to 2005, it's like, oh, this was always in their bag. They always knew how to direct action, and it was just so cool to kind of see the inception of it. And you know what it reminded me a lot of, Tim? It reminded me of the work of the late great Monty Oum.
Dude, I mean, oh, I got chills you just saying that. But real talk, I was watching the movie last night, and I already knew this, but seeing the motorcycle chase scene, I'm like, oh, this is literally the spiral fight from Red versus Blue, whatever fucking season, that Monty Ohm directed the action of, and like the way that the fights is seen, like the Dead Fantasy series that he did. Oh my God, seeing these characters. But Advent Children was like, hey, this is that with the biggest budget possible for what we're trying to do here, and seeing these characters do their limit breaks. Like no character in the movie just does a move. Every move is a reference to something, and it is just so damn cool to see. But Mike, like you watching this, what was your experience watching the movie?
I mean, it was super special. The music, the animation, the story, right? Because this is after Final Fantasy VII. This is like this is what has happened. This is where we are. So it is cool to see all these characters, where we kind of stand and like, what's next? What are we doing, right? And I loved that. And so, yeah, I had so much fun. And like, yeah, the hunt for Mother and what that meant, to see characters for me that are still new, but like, oh, wow, they're still around, right? Rude and Reno are there with the president's son. And you're like, what are they doing? Oh, wow, they're working with Cloud now? Cloud has just become a package delivery guy? What is he doing? I need a cell phone in this world? Why do you need a cell phone?
I think Mike is in such a perfect place for it, because like it's really cool for Mike to see this movie is post Final Fantasy VII, right? And you see where these characters end up, and you see that some of them aren't in the greatest of spots. Some characters are dealing with certain issues or whatever. And I love that for Mike experiencing the franchise for the first time, much like I am still to a larger degree, to be able to say like, hey, what you just saw may or may not happen. We don't know. That's what the remake is about, right? Like some of these things may change, some of them may stay the same. We don't know exactly, but like I told you last night, I think that the movie has like a lot of goofy moments, a lot of like weird dialogue and spots, and some of that just may be like translation issues that didn't correctly go over to the English voice actors. It's goofy in a lot of spots. We had a lot of good laughs, a lot of like a lot of wow moments of just hype and cutscenes, and the amount of times that I said out loud, this is the sickest shit I've ever seen. Like, and it's usually Cloud doing something awesome or whatever. And at near the end of this boss fight, like video game, right? Near the end of this boss fight, to see Cloud being tossed up by all of his friends, these people that he's been on such a journey with, and they're helping him, and he's climbing, and he's soaring. And then like I'm getting choked up right now. It'll always get me emotional to have like a friend of a character that is no longer alive to reach out
and be the one,
and have Aerith be like, Cloud, I got you. You know, whatever she says. She couldn't have said anything. She didn't even have to say anything. I just get like so choked up in all moments like that. And for it to be characters that I care about, god dang, what a freaking cool moment that was.
A fight against a dark Bahamut. All right? You're fighting this big old motherfucker, and we get the whole team attacks. The whole team is here for this cameo moment. Like, this is fan service at its best.
So cool.
They're jumping up, they're doing all the fights, and Cloud, get him. He jumps through, and like he does the charge up as he flies through the giant blast to get to this thing. And then when he gets the final Aerith power up and he runs, gets his sword down, and pulls it all the way up the length of the body of Bahamut. It is awesome.
And even before that, the everybody's here moment.
Yeah.
Where things aren't looking great for everybody out there, right? All these kids who are dealing with we were calling it the ligma, but they got the stigma, and it's like this disease is killing them, and all this bad stuff is happening, and Dark Bahamut's going buck wild, Mike. And then who's here? Red shows up. Who else? Cool freaking weapon. Yuffie's here. Like, oh my god, dude! Like
the whole team.
That gets me too. I'm such an easy target for those winning moments, you know.
But they took them and they earned them, and that's the thing. Is it's like there are very few things like Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, for better or worse. But for the better parts of it, man, they committed and it delivered. And since 2005, I've been watching this movie, and I've been thinking, man, like, I imagine if a game looked like this. Imagine if this was what Final Fantasy was as a game. And we've been getting closer and closer and closer to
Yeah.
that over the years. I remember playing Final Fantasy 13, and in a lot of ways, that game is very impressive visually. And I remember being like, "Oh man, we're here," and I was like, "No, we're not there."
Yeah.
Remake,
We are
it's
here,
debatably
Tim.
better.
Tim,
we
we're
are here.
We're
man.
100% here with that. I mean, the final fight with Sephiroth and Cloud, like when he's poking him all the way through, and
bleeding.
then he's got the whole tower collapsing on him, and he puts the sword underneath his feet, and he's standing there, grabs the next sword, and chops
Tells him
it
to
in half.
beg.
Oh,
I mean, like
so
just
cool.
well, leading up before that to have Kadaj. I'm gonna assume the character's name is
Kadash.
Kadaj, one of the main
Yeah.
kind of like the main brother. Always, having the remnants of Mother in this box and it's leaking out over, and the last remnants, dude is falling down. It looks like the fight's over, right? They're just the whole crew is watching Cloud go to town on these people, and they're like, "Cloud's got this. Don't worry about it." Kadaj is falling, infuses, and I forgot what happened in this moment. Infuses the Mother
Genova cells.
into Genova cells into the chest. Boom! Sephiroth pops up, and all of
But he doesn't just pop up. He goes like this, and his sword stops Cloud from doing the death strike. And
it's so cool.
And then the music starts playing. Hello, Cloud.
me and Barrett next to each other, and Mike had just gone to the restroom, but he was watching from the hallway, so he was like watching in the aisle. And I hear Roger next to me, and all of us at the same time, just like, "Oh shit!" Like it was hype as hell, dude. And to have that awesome boss fight,
special moment.
to see Cloud like get work done to him, and then the flashback, and you have Cloud just bloodied up in like kind of a really gruesome way that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about this character yet. That's what I'm excited
And for Zach to be there
Come on.
and be like, "You've beaten him before, man. You got this. Embrace your dreams, Mike.
You've beaten
We're
him
gonna get
before.
embrace your
Come on.
dreams tattooed on us.
Come
Right
on,
this side.
dude, we
Oh,
have
so
to.
Right
Yeah,
this side.
absolutely.
And he's like, "You beat him. You got this." And what did I tell you to do to carry, to continue on your legacy? I forget the exact lines of it.
You're
It's
my
something
living
like that.
legacy.
Be my living legacy,
my
dude.
living
I was tearing up in that moment too, man. Powers the hell up, Super Saiyans, Tim. Does all the
Come
blue
on.
shit.
Get
Oh
crazy.
my
With all
the weapons
all
all
the
around
different
you.
swords.
Yeah, come on.
Come on. And that final sword just like landed down, dude.
And that's the special part about
never be
this
a memory.
movie.
God, I got goosebumps.
Because in the game, we're teased of Zach. We don't get to see much of him yet, right? But in the movie, the finale of it all with the sword, the Buster sword right there,
Yeah.
and he goes, "Is this a gravesite?" And he goes, "No, it's where a legend was born, or a
Well,
hero
I
was
mean,
born." You're
yeah,
like,
man. Yeah, man. Oh, there's a lot
God,
to break
it's
down there,
amazing.
Mike. I'm so excited for you. Talking about Zach, though, for a minute,
Yeah.
all right? Zach, for some reason, I've always just loved him. And honestly, I think a lot of it just had to do with the fact that my best friend Curran, Final Fantasy VII being his favorite game, he was a Cloud guy. So that meant I was like, nah, Zach's better.
Yeah.
All right? Zach is my guy. To the point that
You're Leonardo, I'm Donatello, sort of thing.
that's the thing, And back in the day, Andy, like way before you officially worked here, you used to do art for Kind of Funny, and you were doing, I don't even remember what it was. It must have been like the original Games Cast.
Yeah, I think it
that
was an
we worked
animation,
on.
yeah.
And we're like, all right, cool. Let's make us as like different characters. So I think Greg was Clementine from Walking Dead and Solid Snake. I was Pokemon trainer. And we were supposed to have two. And you're like, who should you be? And I was like, Zach from Final Fantasy VII. You're like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm like, well, it's Cloud, but it's gray hair, essentially.
I was
But
like, I'll just make you as Cloud.
yeah, and I was like, and so you made me a Zach though. Like I am Zach in it, which is awesome. But like, Zach's always been my guy. And there's a game called Crisis Core, Mike, that was the PSP game that came out after Advent Children. That's a prequel to all the things that so far that we've seen. And I fell in love with that game back in the day. And last year they put out the remake of it, or the remake, remaster, whatever you want to call it. It was called Reunion, and it came out. So people could play it if they wanted to. Not required. Might cause more questions than answers, but fun as hell in some ways, goofy as hell. I still absolutely love it. But real quick, Barrett, I wanted to bring up something, because as I was preparing for this Hypecast here, I was like, am I correct in thinking that both Crisis Core Reunion and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth were both officially announced at the same events?
Yeah, they were.
And they were. And I was like, I wonder if those dates stuck. And they did. And I just want to have a little hype on hype moment and watch this real quick if we could. If you'd bring up Barrett, just the first one here that is me realizing that the dream is finally happening.
No, in Advent Children, which is a sequel, there was other versions. I don't know about the prequel shit.
People in the chat are saying Young Xehanort. He looked a little bit like Riku from Kingdom Hearts.
Just look at me here.
Boy,
It's Crisis Core.
steep.
Yes, it goddamn is that. Let's go.
I do remember that guy. Okay.
So,
I do remember that guy. What a dope scene in the movie, too. What a cool scene.
Bring it out there. All it took was that one shot, and I'm like, oh my God, they're doing it. And then if you could go to the next time code there, Barrett, where we get the end of that trailer that had the release date for the game.
Protect your honor.
As soldier! Come and get it!
Whoa.
This winner.
Yes!
And then just keep watching. Just keep going.
We're eating, everybody.
Wow.
最後の情報です。
Oh my
それでは
God,
どう
are
ぞ
they about to give us
ご覧ください。
remake too?
No.
Yo, they are churning these things out.
What we've done, that's set in stone. The past
Let's just
is
watch this whole
forever.
trailer.
But the future,
Wow.
even if it has been written, can be changed. So focus on the
damn it.
future, not the past.
God damn, I'm tearing up, man.
He wants to finish what he started. He wants to reclaim his
Let's
birthright.
fucking go.
and
You
rule
really
over the
said this
planet
winter.
with Genova at his side.
What is that?
I saw you lying there. I figured it was too late.
This stream is
Wait,
dying.
what are you implying? That I died? That I'm some kind of imposter?
What?
This
Man,
is
I got a tear in my
awesome.
face.
Here with me.
It is going to divide
5
people
years
so
ago.
much, but I love it.
Where are you? What happened to you?
I'm trying so hard to find you.
Sorry. Feel like I failed you.
What's it called?
Rebirth.
That's sick as fuck.
Next
Yo! That's fucking crazy. Holy shit, dude.
Available next winter, and everybody, we're here, baby.
here.
It
We
is
are
that
living it.
winter. Rebirth is a week away. I can't. Not even a week away. Oh my God, Mike. Watching that.
Yeah.
Where are you at?
That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at a 12 out of a 10 right now on the hype scale of I want to just close my eyes, wake up. It's Thursday. Me and Andy are on the couch playing this game together because I cannot wait. I have so many questions I need answered. I want to play as other characters now that I've seen you can play as other people. That's going to be wild. And seeing the team up moves are going to be cool. The music's going to be great. Where are we going? I mean, we didn't even talk about the finale of it all. Me on a motorcycle on that one, saving the day. Then we got the end. It's like, we got to go. And it's like, where are we going? I'm afraid to go, but we got to go.
when they're looking at the portal, where Sephiroth walks out of the portal and he's like, everything from here on out is like whatever, spacey shit he says, right? Like everything from here on out. Here's this cool quote. And we're like, wow, this is like us stepping into the unknown. We're not sure what's going to happen from here, Mike. And Mike just keeps going like, what's Barrett going to do about Marlene?
Yeah, what about
You're
Marlene?
invested, man.
I'm invested.
I'm like, Mike, I think Barrett's got it. Like, I don't think you got it.
I'm worried about Marlene. I'm worried about the whole team. I have questions. I got to know who this cat is and how does this cat
yeah.
play a factor into my life right here? And where do we go?
And-
what answers are going to be, where are we going?
And yeah, Mike alluded to it. On Thursday, we will be doing a larger stream than we normally do, similar to other like marathon streams, but not really a marathon stream, but we want to push it way longer than what a normal stream would be, where we're hopping into Rebirth.
Yeah.
We want Mike to play the Yuffie DLC because I think he can knock that out on easy difficulty pretty quickly. I think it took me like 4 hours to beat the Yuffie DLC. It may take him like maybe 3-ish on an easier difficulty. And we want to experience that together again. Like I want to just do as much as we can on that Thursday stream, the day that it releases. We're still kind of figuring out the logistics, but I'm super stoked to like see.
We're gonna find the source.
Mike experience this.
We're gonna find possibly new Midgar. You know,
I love
there's
this.
bad people
Mike.
out there. We gotta stop them, man. It's crazy stuff. What are the crazy characters we're gonna meet? I danced for that dress. I earned the love and respect of those people at the Walmart. Will I have something crazy happen again over there?
Who's the one executive of Shinra that like where they show all the new group and it's like it's the one Yuffie villain, the super hot lady.
Oh my God, the directors of communications.
Blonde, like
we still have
she's an absolute like right. She's like so rude, but she's an absolute baddie. And Scarlet, and then we see the other shorter dude, kind of like stockier frame, and Mike goes Don Corleone, and it's like that's not Don Corneo. That is not
Don Corleone.
That is not him.
What kind of new nicknames will we give people? Will we get to learn more about Zach? What's up? I mean,
right there.
Watching Advent Children, what's up with there? There's so many questions that I have and I need answered. Will the director of communications, Scarlett, still have somebody walking around on all fours and she's putting her feet up on him? I don't know what she's going to do.
Oh, man.
Oh, man,
So excited.
indeed. It is exciting times. Thank you all for hanging out. I needed this. You know what I mean? I've been talking about Final Fantasy 7 a lot recently.
Gotta
but
get it out. Gotta get it out.
Mike, honestly, it is. I'm just so excited for you. I'm so happy that this is hitting for you as much as it is. Few short days away from Rebirth. We're starting the journey on Twitch. That's going to be a blast.
Yeah, we are.
But for everybody else, there's a demo out. There's a new demo out now, an expanded one. So you could even play like, in some of the open world Junon stuff. So definitely check that out. Remember, the game comes out on February 29th. You can get the twin pack that gets you Remake, the PS5 version, which also includes the Yuffie DLC that we're talking about, and of course Rebirth. So get hyped about all that.
What a dream. Square sponsoring us to just talk about this awesome stuff. And I know we're ending the podcast. We're already in the gym shop. I'm sorry, Barrett, but like last night we're there in the forest scene, and Cloud is like fighting all the Advent children, and then we just see a red cape out of nowhere. Mike goes, "He's got a red cape," and I was like, "No, that's Vincent Valentine, who I also don't know anything about, but he's always looked cool." What the hell, man?
He's got a cape.
He's got a gun. It's so sick.
Oh my God! Until next time, stay hyped, everybody.